Our next speaker is Roland Guasparini.
The other mic.
That's supposed to be about
Good evening, Your Worship, Council. Since the issue of air quality was brought up first, I think I'll just address that quickly. A number of statements have been made by council members that I think could be somewhat misleading to the public, so I just thought I'd bring some pictures to just show you where the air quality monitoring was done. I think the statements that were made are kind of implying that people are regularly breathing the worst air in the Lower Mainland on Front Street, which is not correct. They're implying that they know that removing the parkade is going to significantly change the air quality at the level of the businesses, when in fact they cannot know that since the necessary studies were not done. So this is a picture of the monitor that was put there for about a year at around 6th Street. As you can see, it's just under the deck of the parkade. Now, I don't think there's many people that spend most of their day with their head hanging over the edge of the parkade, which is what this was monitoring. And what it was getting was the trucks that it was coming by was basically in direct line of the stacks from the diesel trucks. So it was getting a direct hit 4 meters away from the top of those stacks. So there it is again. Now what we do know is that pollutants are rapidly dispersed the farther you get away from the source. So here's the, here's the picture of Front Street. The yellow circle is where the monitor would have been. So here it is getting all of the effluent from the trucks before it hits the big air column where it's dispersed. So what we don't have from that study is actually what the air quality is on Front Street. It's still a busy truck route, as you know when you go down there. It's very noisy, extremely noisy. So it's hard to imagine how, whether the parkade is there or not, how it could be incredibly enjoyable atmosphere to walk along when the trucks are going by. With the truck route there and the 1,000 other vehicles a day, the air quality is not going to be as great as it would be farther away. That's a fact of life among busy streets, whether it's this street or Columbia or any heavily trafficked street. So just to clear up some of the issues around the air quality. The other thing I wanted to talk about was, again, I just wanted to let you know about our progress in letting the public know about the proposed $11 million demolition project. I continue to receive many comments supporting our efforts to stop the demolition. These people do not wish to have council spend $11 million on this demolition project. They agree with you that it's not urgent. They want to save the parkade and repurpose it for public use as a walkway with some enhancements and save the taxpayer dollars at the same time. Recently, the Downtown Residents Association voted in favor of a resolution in support of stopping the demolition. Now, we held a rally on the parkade deck on Saturday, which of course was on a deck because we wouldn't be able to hear ourselves if we were down by the truck traffic, which is why we had it up on the parkade, also to show the deck that we wanted to save for a walkway. I'm kind of overwhelmed actually by the number of people that have shown up tonight in support of our proposition. Now, one particular letter of support that we received, and these were from people that attended our rally, and I know you've received getting dozens of letters from the public now because I get copies of them. But one letter of support was from the UBC School of Architecture. Two of the teachers there attended the rally after they'd heard about it from the media. And they say, and I'll just cut to the chase after giving you all their qualifications about being teachers for 20 years. And this was Bill Pichet and Professor George Wagner. Yes, they've often visited the structure to enjoy the magnificent views it affords the Fraser River and also to appreciate the remarkable connections it creates across Front Street to downtown. We would encourage Council to reconsider the opportunities to repurpose the parkade for collective public use and would gladly offer our services to create a special research studio within our school in the fall of 2015 to present ideas for various ways it can be reimagined. There are many successful repurposed spaces in major metropolitan areas which combine the roles of parking and other infrastructures with public amenity spaces. I would suggest that the price tag for demolition may be better serving the community if those funds went towards the generation of public events, greening strategies, and sound amelioration components for the truck and train traffic. If we may, we'd be happy to illustrate these and other concepts to Council if the decision to demolish is delayed for a while. We must carefully consider our future generations in these kinds of decisions, and while the waterfront park is an excellent beginning, connecting it to a tiered upper level of the parkade would be a marriage made in heaven if done imaginatively and with supportive programming. What a wonderful endorsement for repurposing the parkade, with an offer to help from the School of Architecture and Landscape Architecture. So I think we'll keep on our efforts to bring public opinion to bear on your decisions and continue to find additional areas of agreement so that you may consider deferring the demolition. Thank you.
Could we identify the speaker, please?
Yes, sorry, Roland Guasparini. I'm a New West resident.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Doug Whicker. Oh, I apologize. Councillor Johnstone, did you have a question for the speaker?
No, I just wanted to make one point. We have chatted quite a bit, Roland and I. I just want to make a single point that this is not an $11 million demolition project. The majority of the $11 million budget for this project is going into repairing and improving the east half of the parkade so that we can get another 20 or 30 years of life out of the east half of the parkade. Another large chunk of the money is going into the restoration of the roadway where the east half of the park, where the west half of the parkade will no longer be. $11 million, to call it $11 million demolition project is it's simply not, it's misleading is what it is. The majority of this money is actually being built improving half of the parkade and improving the environment around the parkade. A small portion of it is going towards demolition.
Councillor Puckmeyer.
Thank you. And I just want to clarify the air quality issue that was brought up. There were two types of modeling that were done. There was the mobile van that GVRD was called at the time was using. And then there was that sensor as well. The van showed the same issues on ground level as what were shown in the elevated level.
Councillor McAvoy.
I am sorry.
Councillor McAvoy.
I'm sorry, Your Worship, if I may clarify to the audience.
You can.
Am I permitted? Members of the audience, I have been extremely generous in allowing you to chair and to acknowledge speakers. But really, there will be no questions from the audience. This is not a debate between yourselves and council. Delegations present, council respond in questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor McAvoy.
I just want to encourage delegations, if you want to come forward and challenge facts or seek information, you can contact our City Hall and our city staff directly to do that. Nothing that we looked at is a secret, right? But if you want to persuade me, accuracy is pretty important. And, you know, those checks, those photos from 2010 were not when we had a delegation come here. We had a delegation come in the last term. The testing is annual, and the delegation came from Fraser Health. And it was Fraser Health that made the comments that the air quality under the parkade, if it was the air quality of the lower mainland, they would be putting out public health warnings. So I just want to dissuade you from making statements that council made misleading statements. Council didn't make those statements. Fraser Health made those statements.
Councillor Puckmeyer.
Yeah, I just want to clarify also the cost. It's not $11 million. The renovation of the existing, what will be left of the parkade, is $4.8 million. The demolition alone is $3.5 million. And I would guess that if we were renovating the part that's being torn down, it'd probably be around that. If not, it could very well be more than that. The $2.5 million is the work on the ground after it's completed, the Muse part of it. So, you know, again, I respect you trying to save the parkade. I respect the points that you're making. I respect your passion. But, you know, please, you know, let's be factual and truthful about this. Let's not make this another no campaign. Let's be honest and truthful about it, and we'll be more than happy to listen to you.
I actually don't think there was, unless you wanted to comment. Okay, Doug Whicker.
Thank you. Good evening, Your Worship and Councillors. My name is Douglas Whicker, and I reside at 410 Carnarvon Street. I am a member of the Save the Parkade Committee. I am here tonight as a follow-up to my and my colleagues' presentations made at Council 4 weeks ago. And before I go into my presentation, I just would like to make a comment that the numbers that we are seeing from City on the cost of the parkade are changing weekly. The costs that were presented by a staff report on, I believe it was March 6th, or in about 2 days of that, had the east side improvement at over $5 million, $5.2 million. They had the west side demolition at $3.85 million. They had the Muse at $2 million, and the total came with the various totals were totally different from what I'm hearing tonight. So these reports seem to come out every time. The last time I heard there was $2 million for the Muse. The next thing I heard, that was being deferred, and there was going to be $50,000 to study the Muse. So we get a lot of different reports, and almost all of our numbers are based on staff reports. So if we are getting them wrong, then I don't know, maybe we're misinterpreting these things, but if we're misinterpreting, I'm not sure where the problems are. We have said that the demolishing of the parkade is going to cost a total of $11.2 million, and that we believe that the parkade can be saved and renovated, and we can put in noise barriers to deal with the problems on Front Street for a lot less money than that, and that we believe we could turn this into a workable project for less than the money that's being called for to tear it down. And as an example, you're talking $3.85 million to tear down the west side of the parkade. We can put noise barriers from Begbie to 6th. We'll solve the noise and the air pollution problems. And as you'll see on some of the views here, you're going to find out the daylighting issues are not really the issues everybody's making them out to be. But we could do that entire noise barrier for an estimated $500,000, and that is the cost that we got from the company that put the noise barriers up on the Sea to Sky and also put the noise barriers up in North Van. And so that is a realistic value, and it is a quarter of the cost of the city's cost for the Muse. So following my colleague Roland Guasparini's presentation at that meeting, Councillor Johnston pointed out that the Highline Park in New York was funded by $167 million and expressed a wish that New Westminster could have that type of money to build a new linear greenway. I would like to briefly comment on that statement. The Highline Park concept was put forward by a group of residents who formed the Friends of the Highline in 1999. Sound familiar? Their lobbying was sufficiently successful to encourage the City of New York to put up the first $50 million towards the park, with the balance coming from private funding. As can be seen, the City of New York was willing to listen to their citizens and abandon plans of Mayor Rudy Giuliani's administration for demolition of the High Line. As a result, they have created a world-famous park which draws countless tourists and which has spawned similar projects in Chicago, Philadelphia, and St. Louis. And of course, there are other similar projects in Paris, London, and elsewhere in the world. Quoting from the Washington Post, the High Line has become one of the top visitor attractions in New York, more popular even than the Statue of Liberty. One major condition that distinguishes New Westminster from the High Line is that in New York, they really were starting from an abandoned, derelict railway trestle, not ideal conditions for a walking trail. No wonder they needed so much money. However, in New Westminster, we're starting with a perfectly sound structure that does not need more than routine maintenance and some cosmetic repair. And we're not even asking the city to create a park. All we're asking is the city to defer the demolition of a valuable asset so that productive repurposing options can be considered. I would also like to comment on Councillor Puckmeyer's comment about the ecstasy of future residents of the Trap Holbrook project with the demolition of the parkade. All of the residential component of that project are 6 stories or higher and all have a clear view of the waterfront over top of the parkade, while those who choose to go to their window and look down at present will see the parkade. But I cannot fathom why a view of a countless stream of semi-trailers, trucks, automobiles, and trains would cause them to be ecstatic. In fact, we have spoken to some purchasers in that project who profess that they are ignorant of the plans to tear down the parkade and now are very frightened by the consequences. They are strong supporters of our efforts to rescue the parkade. Now I'd like to address comments made by Councillor Johnston and Your Worship to the news media. In an interview broadcast last week, both Your Worship and Councillor Johnston indicated that the city does not have the resources to duplicate or extend Pier Park on the parkade, and that it is not needed because it duplicates the functions offered by Pier Park. We are not asking that the city spend any money to build a park on the parkade. It is our vision as one of the possibilities for repurposing the parkade. All we are asking is a stay of demolition of the parkade so that other options can be considered. The City Council is well aware that once the west half of the parkade is demolished, any thoughts of an elevated Riverwalk Park will be destroyed with it, and all the citizens of New Westminster will be left with is an exposed, super busy truck route with hundreds of vehicles per hour, including all those semi-trailers. So you are planning to spend $3.85 million taxpayers' dollars to make sure that there is no possibility of a future park to accommodate the thousands of new residences that will be built nearby. You prepared to let me go on a little bit further?
You can continue, yep.
This brings me to my final point. As stressed in my previous presentation, the demolition of the west side of the parkade will daylight one of the busiest truck routes in Metro Vancouver. We have heard Your Worship quoted as saying that tests indicated that noise levels will go down if the parkade is demolished. I have requested these tests from Your Worship, who referred me to staff. To date, no test reports have been provided. This would lead to the conclusion that the city has made this decision without any thorough study of the noise impact. In the absence of these studies, I can advise you, based on my experience gained from 38 years as an acoustical consultant practicing in the Lower Mainland, that there will be a negligible drop in the sound level down at grade on Front Street. The level will still be too high to hold a conversation without shouting when the semi-trailers are going by. It will be too high for Antique Alley customers to want to sit out on a patio table in front of a restaurant or coffee shop. I can also tell you that the acoustic oasis that exists on top of the parkade deck will disappear, and the shielding benefit derived from the parkade will be lost on both the Trap Holbrook project and the 2 eastmost towers of the Larco project once it is built. Proper modeling needs to be carried out to confirm the exact figure, but I estimate that those areas shielded by the parkade noise levels for both projects will go up by 5 to 10 decibels or even more. That includes all the residential component of the Trap Holbrook project and likely all floors above the 6th floor of the 45-story tower planned for the Larco site. The parkade also shields the Trap Holbrook project from the noise from trains running at all times of the day and night. While eventually there may be a whistle bylaw that will stop some of the noise, the whistle bylaw will not stop the profound rumbles of the locomotives or the frequent wheel squeal. So once again, I am asking New Westminster City Council to defer the unnecessary demolition of the west half of the parkade until proper studies can be undertaken and submitted to the public which accurately assess the noise issues both above and below the parkade. I would also ask the city set up a meeting with appropriate councillors, city staff, Larco representatives, Trap Holbrook representatives, and members from our committee to fully review this action and allow us to demonstrate to the developers and to staff and council that residents in those projects would benefit from the retention of the parkade. Thank you very much.
Thank you. During your presentation, there were a number of questions related to budget. I'm wondering if we can maybe get Mark Allison from city staff to come forward and maybe answer some of those questions if you're able to.
That's good. Thank you. Thank you, Your Worship. The numbers that were put in the council report that was presented in February showed a deconstruction cost of the order of $3.85 million, which included some electrical work as well, which would be for the rehabilitation. The majority of the costs, about $5.9 million, I believe, was for the rehabilitation, which was shown to be necessary by our structural engineers to avoid spalling, which is the delamination of the concrete, which would cause hazards for the roadway below and decks above. And about $2 million was earmarked for the mews work, which would be a reconstruction of the Front Street mews. So the total actually is, I think, $11.25 million for all of that work.
Councillor Johnston, did you have? No.
No,
Okay.
that was just clarified.
Okay, thank you. The next speaker is Jerry Johnson.
That one? Oh, first shot. Yeah, go ahead. Same one. Good evening, Your Worship. I'm Jerry Johnson. I'm a New Westminster resident. You may remember me from my previous appearance here. I'm a licensed engineer in Canada and the U.S., and I'm also a certified Washington State bridge inspector. Most of my career has been in the commercial sector, where facts matter. That's where people are spending their own money, investors are spending their own money, so they're very interested in the facts, and project actions come only after exhaustive fact-finding. I've led countless meetings where we ask and we re-ask questions to ensure that we're acting on hard facts and that we've completely stripped away any false perceptions. In my efforts to save this parkade, I've discovered a culture where facts don't seem to matter so much. And if you'll allow me, I'd like to go through a few examples that demonstrate what I'm talking about. Contrary to the city's narrative that I've heard, the parkade is not dilapidated. There are no deteriorated areas in the decks where you can see down to the deck below. In fact, I haven't even come across evidence of any significant widespread structural issue whatsoever. Indeed, I can even find, the only place I can find to really even spend real money is not on the actual parkade. It's on the things we've bolted to it, like light poles and handrails and expansion joint covers and expansion joint seals, that sort of thing. I was also asked by a citizen to talk about the vibration. Evidently, some people have the idea that since they can feel vibrations when they're on the deck, that it must be dangerous or not structurally sound. But I can assure you that the vibration behavior is the same. That doesn't change over time. And in fact, structures like that with long spans, they vibrate. They're not 100% rigid. If you've ever had the occasion to have your car stopped on Lionsgate Bridge, and you probably have, you can feel the vibrations when you're just sitting in your car, and that gets masked when you're rolling on the bridge. But all big, long-span structures like that, the Fraser Bridge, the Port Mann Bridge, they all will vibrate. So just to address the thing I was asked to address, that is not a, that's no evidence for the structural condition. My second example is contrary to the city's narrative. There's no reason that I've understood that Antique Alley has the worst air pollution in the lower mainland. Up until tonight, I never understood that we'd even measured. There had even been measurements of the air quality in the alley. It was just, if there is measurement that was done on the street level, then I guess I'm open to hearing that, but I haven't seen that. And in any case, the vision that we have would address that. So it just seems imprudent to release a soundbite like that when we haven't, if we haven't even done a measurement. And if we have, I'm open to hearing about that. Third example is contrary to renderings that have been released to the public. It turns out that we have 3 active rail tracks that run along Front Street. I was down there today, and sure enough, they're there. And Front Street isn't a secluded boulevard with an occasional sedan passing by. It's a truck route, and it's a major truck route. The city's plans to have an open muse is going to be on the shoulder of a major truck highway, 150 trucks an hour. And when you're inside one of those Antique Alley businesses and someone comes through the door, most of the time conversation has to stop until that door closes again. So the environment outside that door is not pleasant. It's not any place, like has been said before, it's not where you're going to be sipping tea at an outside table. Fourth example is the city's February engineering report said that, well, there are only a few hard numbers in the financial conclusions, and one of those hard numbers was that it would take about $6 million to rehabilitate, I think is the word they use, rehabilitate the Western Parkade. And I'm in this business, and that number just seemed wrong by an order of magnitude. So I made a phone call to the city to try to get a breakdown for that. I learned that even though it was presented as a legitimate engineering estimate, and even though it was a major conclusion in that published report, it turns out that there is no engineering basis for it. And if I understood what I was hearing on the phone, that number was just really the idle speculation of someone that was standing around the office. And that number is just not fit for you to use in your decisions, I don't think. You know, there needs to be engineering support for that sort of thing. May I go on? I don't have too much more. The last example is if the city plans to spend $1 million on the east, well, the city does plan to spend $1 million on the east, millions of dollars on the Eastern Parkade to rehabilitate it. And it caught my attention that most, if not all of that money is involved with addressing delaminations, and that was talked about by Mark there. And it was my understanding, I only got a chance today to see the report briefly, but it was my understanding that most of those delaminations that they want to repair are on the deck, which is where I would expect they would be, not on the underside. And I'm perplexed at why they would want to do that. I'm left wondering if whether or not the right questions, the important questions, were asked about doing that. Is there a safety issue involved? You know, did anyone ask the question, what's the consequences of doing nothing? You know, if this is not a safety issue, if this has been here for 50 years since construction, as most delaminations are, and if after 50 years you still have to have a special test to even detect these delaminations, and they're common to all new structures, why is it that we're spending millions of dollars to make this structure better than new? I didn't see it in the report when I was looking over it today, and I'm not sure that that's answered there, and that question needs to be answered. yes, I'm sure there are delaminations, but are they in structural critical areas? Are they a safety hazard? What percentage of those, if any, need to be repaired? That was the last example. It's not too late to pose questions like that, that I feel like we should have been asking all along. And I know the council doesn't want to revisit this issue, but I think that it must. I think that it's a duty to investigate credible doubts about information that we've used. And I'm a professional telling you that there are serious flaws in some of the engineering information that I think you've used to make this important decision. You don't need to necessarily believe me, but I just think if you investigate it on your own, I can lead you to the questions that I would like to see you ask. So finally, I'd like to see us embrace a vision that addresses facts and make sure that we're not doing things on false perception, because facts do matter. The visions that I'm behind would actually transform Antique Alley into a real muse, one that was free from the fumes and the noise of the front street. It would generate an ongoing revenue stream from the parking resource, and it will create a destination attraction right here right here on the quay, and it would do all of that while putting tax dollars back in our pocket. I just don't know how often we see opportunities like that where we can have an opportunity to get something special and save money at the same time. And as you can see, we're all very enthusiastic that that's the thing that we're looking at here. So other citizens like me are looking for evidence that, you know, our government knows how to manage the money that it has before we send more money, you know, in. And I think that this is a great chance to do that. I think that we're asking you to please grab this opportunity and use it to show that just how wisely we can spend public funds. So thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Diane Butler. Councillor McAvoy?
I didn't catch your name.
I'm sorry, Jerry Johnson.
Hi, Jerry. So I'm going out of town for a little while, but I've agreed to meet with a member of your group about some of their thoughts, and I'd be happy to meet with you and talk about your concerns about the engineering process. I'd be glad to do that. All right?
Thank you. I'd like to do that. And I believe Councilman Harper said that he would arrange for us to have a meeting with Mr. Lowry, I guess.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to that. Yeah.
You made one comment that I'm still stuck with, right, which is that I don't have the luxury of dismissing a Fraser Health coming to council and giving us a warning about an air quality issue. I can't dismiss that. Whether people like that it happened or whether people feel that we're wrong in thinking that way, we had credible health officials who provided us with that warning, and I can't wish that away. So you said that under your proposal that would fix any air quality problems under the parkade. Could you explain that further?
Yes, thank you for asking that, because that's one of the features that we feel most enthusiastic about. This transparent noise barrier that Doug has addressed more than once, what it would actually be, in our minds, would be the bottom 4 feet or so, 5 feet, would be a concrete barrier, and then you have a plexiglass section on top of that, which daylights everything into the alley to the extent it's possible. And then maybe the top meter or so would be opaque, so that it just screens out the view of the bottom of the deck and perhaps saves money. So this would be a sealed barrier. So, and it would only be, at least for the variation that we've been discussing mostly, it would only be on the Antique Alley side. The tunnel would be open to the water side. So any pollution that's coming up into the alley from that side, if there's a significant amount down at the street level, this would totally address that. And the noise, you know, it would actually turn this muse into a walkable, place to beable kind of place, whereas without a noise barrier, you just don't want to be out there.
I think that I'm interested in talking further and working with you, but you got to understand, you use the language "if." I think I'd be an irresponsible public official if I said there might be air quality problems where the local health authority is telling us there is. So I can't go with "if," You have some ideas that you think will redress that. I'll be happy to talk to you about that.
Okay. Like I said tonight, it was kind of a shocker that I hadn't heard that we had ever measured the air quality down on the street, so I'd like to know exactly what was done there.
Thank you. Diane Butler?
Your Worship, Council, I'm doing this kind of off the cuff, it seems to be my way anyhow. In reference to the yes-no vote, I think that the biggest problem we have is that many people really don't understand and are fearful and are saying things like, oh my God, you know, this tax is even going to be on my bread and on my toothpaste, you know, those kinds of things. And they don't understand the exemptions of the PST, and perhaps in your information to the public, those kinds of issues should be addressed. My feeling on the subject is, if not yes, then what? What is the provincial government going to do, and at what rate are they going to tax to get the things that they need to give to the people that we're not too happy about how they're functioning? So I think that the Mayor's Council has absolute merit. Now, in reference to the parkade, I do want to say that at our Residents Association meeting the other night, we had over 40 people. We had a wonderful time with Bill. He was very educational in explaining fiber optics and also talking about the yes-no. And here again, the issues that I just mentioned were not brought up, and other things were, which just, you know, here again, lack of education, I think, is the biggest problem that everybody has with this situation, and those issues need to be addressed. So as far as the parkade is concerned, everyone in that room was absolutely delighted with the whole concept of not having the parkade come down. Now, my thoughts are, you were talking about over 4,000 new residents would be coming over the next years, and that's why we're building these mammoth buildings, which you know I hate. And because we're going to have all these young people coming, and that's why they're getting these closet apartments. So they need to have a place to run. And I thought, wow, what a great thing to have a track, a running track up on top of that parkade. And what a nice view. We'll put some trees up, you know, and just, you know, little things, make it a nice little place to go. And it's flat, which means people like me could go on it because these hills kill me. At any rate, there's so many positive things that I think saving the parkade, because of the young people that are going to be coming, to give them a place to run nearby. All these people that are going to come shopping, you know, they don't all walk forever. They're going to and have packages. They need a place to park. If we take away all the parking, we're not going to be able to give the support to the businesses along Columbia Street, because people won't go if it's not accessible. So for many reasons of this nature, I absolutely support, as does, we have a, what is it called? Resolution. The resolution from the Downtown Residents Association, and I'm remiss in not having a letter to this effect, definitely supported this. And we ask that you do reconsider and don't be in a rush. Take your time, make sure you make the right decision for all the new people that are going to be coming to this community and for future generations. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, that concludes our open delegations. Yeah, I really appreciate everyone coming out here tonight to voice their opinions. I'll be honest. Like everyone else, I wish everyone agreed with me all the time, but that's not always going to happen. I've been probably one of the more vocal proponents of moving forward with the partial deconstruction of the parkade, and I think me and many of the people in the room, share a lot of the vision for our waterfront, for our downtown, and the amenities we have. But obviously there are some differences of opinions in terms of what the value the parkade has. When I think of our downtown and I think of our waterfront, I think about connecting all the way from Sapperton to Queensboro along the waterfront. And to me, that's where I want to be spending my efforts, building something that really spans across our city and is an amenity that our entire city can move forward with. Certainly, there's been a number of comments talking about the cost, and there's no doubt moving forward with the partial deconstruction of the parkade is going to cost public money to move forward with that. But I think the reality is the life cycle cost of maintaining the parkade is going to be greater. Even just looking at what's being, most of the money that for this project is actually to maintain the existing part of the parkade. So just using that information, to me it would seem clear that maintaining that parkade, even without building a Highline Park, will end up costing taxpayers more money in the long run with life cycle cost. Certainly, I respect a lot of the people's opinions regarding the vision for Front Street, and feel that there are some opportunities to improve. But I've always viewed the parkade as one of many barriers separating our historic downtown from our waterfront. I recognize that there is currently a truck route. It looks like I'm running out of time, but and rail lines. But to me, I think to actually just start that conversation about reimagining that connection, to me, starts with the parkade. I don't think we're going to be able to have a discussion about changing our truck routes through our downtown without moving forward. Certainly, the city is already working actively on whistle cessation, and I'm very hopeful that we are going to be able to make some progress. I've appreciated the people that have come here, and I've met with the group, personally walked on the parkade, and certainly appreciated the time and effort they put in, and I appreciated that they took the time to listen to me and kind of my vision and why I've taken the position I have with the parkade in the past. So I want to be upfront with everyone here. I don't want, I've been a strong advocate in the past on this, and certainly have strong views on that. So I'll open up to council if there's any further comments. Councillor Harper.
Thank you, Worship. And I also visited with the committee and walked on the parkade and underneath it, and sort of viewed all the issues I think that we were brought up tonight were brought up in those meetings. But I also at that time said I would contact Mr. Lowry and set up a meeting between your committee and Mr. Lowry, and he's agreed to that, and I think it would be valuable for you to sit down, your committee to sit down with the staff and to go through the kind of numbers so we can at least have clarity or agreement on certain numbers, if not all of them. So I would ask you to contact Mr. Lowry, he's there, and this week and set up that meeting. So thanks.
Okay, so that concludes our open delegation. Our next is an opportunity to